So, Tesla is currently expanding faster than somebody who erroneously thinks carbohydrates are the foundation of a healthy diet. We're over on electrive.com. Grünheide, Tesla submits application for plant expansion. Just want to make sure everybody at home is following along here. Unlike, I don't know, let's just randomly pick a company out of a hat, Government Motors, who keep telling people how many vehicles they're going to produce at some arbitrary date in the future without actually knowing how the they're going to do it. Tesla is actually submitting plans to actually expand production capacity at their actual factories to produce more vehicles. This matters. You know what else matters? Getting your questions in for the next exclusive Patreon Q&A, which I'll be recording very soon. If you remember, you know where to find it, and if not, you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment and get those questions in soon. Tesla has submitted the first application for the expansion of its plant in Grünheide in Brandenburg, Germany, to the State Office for the Environment. According to Tesla, it primarily concerns changes to the existing plant to further ramp up production. Tesla confirmed this to the German press. It is the first application for a partial permit, but it is not the last. Here we go with the red tape and bureaucracy. I'm guessing this expansion will be done sometime next decade. According to a spokesperson at the state office, Tesla wants to expand production capacity from the current 500,000 to 1 million vehicles per year, figures that were already previously leaked. Tesla would build the production facilities required on the existing plant site. In addition, the car maker says it has, quote, optimized planning and production processes in such a way that the previously used and contractually agreed quantities of fresh water are also sufficient for this expansion. Tesla trying not to get in the ass too hard by German bureaucracy, red tape, and possibly, just hypothetically speaking, maybe potentially corruption that's currently attempting to slow down Tesla, from expanding in the homeland of the German automakers. Not that that would actually happen, but, hypothetically speaking, maybe in another version of the simulation, it could be possible that some of the things that have slowed Tesla's expansion down in Germany may be due to German automakers not wanting Tesla to eat their lunch. I'm just kidding, that would never happen. For those who don't know, the amount of delays in getting the Berlin factory up and running stage 1 were truly embarrassing. Germany is literally the laughing stock of the entire world. Everyone's pointing and laughing. German people, no problems. German bureaucracy, big fucking problem. It is embarrassing. Instead of fresh water, Tesla wants to treat and reuse wastewater generated during production. In other words, the manufacturer estimates that it can guarantee a doubling of production capacity within the same water consumption. Other applications for partial permits, such as for new buildings, will follow. The application for the plant expansion comes as no surprise. In November 2022, it was clear from the 2023 budget that Tesla intended to, quote, submit the application for the expansion of its factory in Grünheide before the end of this year, associated with an increase in capacity from 500,000 to over 1 million electric cars per year. We already reported at the end of October on Tesla's plans to generally increase the production capacity of its vehicle plant in Grünheide. According to a report in the I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, at the time, the expansion involves 70 hectares north of the site. While the current development plan still covered the clearing, Tesla would have to reapply for the expansion of the factory itself. The expansion plans are thriving at a time when Tesla is still in the ramp-up phase of the first factory section. Now, this is important because it's true. Stage 1 is still ramping up. Tesla's already applying to build Stage 2. Why? Because they want Stage 2 to be under construction and ramping up before Stage 1 is finished ramping up. Oh, and you know what's going to happen while Stage 2 is ramping up? Yeah, the application for Stage 3. Then 3, there's going to be an application for 4. Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, there will be 2+ million vehicles produced at Tesla's Grünheide plant in the future per year. No one seems to be talking about that though. According to the German news agency dpa, Tesla currently produces 4,000 cars a week, or about 200,000 a year. The workforce comprises about 10,000 employees and should reach 12,000 in the first expansion phase. Incidentally, these expansion plans are not the same as the ones announced in September 2022 for a new logistics center, including a freight station. It will be built outside the existing site on about 100 hectares of land to the east. Tesla initiated the latter expansion process in May 2022. At the time, Tesla applied to initiate a development plan procedure for precisely those 100 hectares. In case you're new around here, you may not have seen these original plans for the Gigafactory in Berlin. These have to be at least 2, maybe 2.5 years old. I just want to emphasize something. This right here is Stage 1. I know this is going to sound crazy and out there, but notice on the plan how there's room for a Stage 2 right here, and a Stage 3, and a Stage 4. Now, I'm not really good at math here, but if Stage 1 was 500,000 vehicles per year, and they're now applying for a Stage 2, which is another 500,000 vehicles per year, does that mean that possibly in the future there will be 2 more expansions, each about 500,000 per year, for a total of about 2 million per year? Oh wait, but hang on a minute. Didn't Tesla just announce that they've got a new vehicle, a new factory design, with a much smaller factory footprint? Spoiler alert, the answer would be yes. And if that's true, and Tesla keeps eking out new incremental capacity from existing facilities by deleting parts and processes, they need less factory footprint, less robots, less moving around. Does that not then suggest that maybe in the future the Berlin factory alone could potentially be producing 2.5, 3+ million vehicles per year? And the answer would be yes. Of course, say that to anyone on Wall Street today and they'll laugh you off the interwebs.
There's no way they thought. Bro, don't you understand? The biggest German automotive plant's only 1 million per year. That's not possible.
Just wanted to flag this now. And while we're at it, let's do a quick recap of Tesla's current and future production capacity, just based on my best guess. So this is Tesla's current production capacity today, approximately around 2.15 million units. Fremont 650,000, 100,000 for S and X, plus 550,000 for 3 and Y. Shanghai around 1 million, combo of 3 and Y. Berlin around 250,000 and still ramping up towards 500,000. Straight up Model Y, only vehicle being produced at Berlin initially. Same for Austin. Cybertruck will come, Semi will come, but for now, Austin just on Model Y. Mexico plant announced, but no production capacity yet. And to be clear, this is production capacity at an annualized rate, not how many vehicles are actually being produced. This is full capacity, give or take. The point I want to make here is just to show you guys where Tesla's at today based on existing facilities. Now let's just hypothetically imagine what might happen. What might Tesla's production capacity, not production, but capacity be at the end of 2023? Allow me to pull some numbers out of my ass that many people will laugh at. And that's okay, you're welcome to use your own numbers. We'll assume that Fremont and Shanghai remain consistent and steady state, even though they will eke out incremental capacity. And also assume that Berlin and Austin close out the year with well over 500,000 vehicles of capacity. And Mexico, 50,000. We've heard the attempt here is to construct the factory in Mexico faster than the Shanghai factory, which went up in about 9 months flat. This is actually a pretty bearish assumption. After all, stage 1 of Berlin and Austin alone will each be 500,000. This is assuming there's no major progress made on stage 2 at Berlin. Let's skip ahead another year. We'll assume that Fremont's eked out a little bit more capacity. Shanghai hasn't. Berlin's now up to 1 million units per year of capacity. Same for Austin and the Mexico factory, 500,000. We're already at 4.2 million units of capacity in 2024. How's 25 look? A little bit more capacity out of Fremont, no change in Shanghai, which is very bearish, but let's be conservative. Berlin capacity 1.5 million, Austin 1.5 million, Mexico 1 million. We're now at 5.75 million and it's only 2025. 2026, no change at Fremont or Shanghai. Berlin and Austin now ramped to 2 million vehicles per year. Again, capacity, not actual production. And Mexico 1.5 million. Wonder what 27 might look like. Add another 500,000 of capacity to Berlin and Austin and Mexico, and we're suddenly at 8.75 million units of capacity. Rinse, recycle, repeat. Another 500,000 at Berlin and Austin and Mexico. No change to Fremont or Shanghai. We're now over 10 million units per year. In 29, the only change is Mexico finally hitting the 3 million units per year mark, and a steady state into 2030. We're already at over 10 million units per year. Now, I know some people are already getting their panties in a twist. This isn't an estimate. I'm just making a point. With Tesla's current facilities, knowing what we now know, including, what was that plan they released at Investor Day? Oh, that's right, the half-price vehicle that they can produce in approximately half the factory footprint of their previous generation vehicles. Some people may argue this is unrealistic. That's totally fine. If you think Tesla, rather than having a factory that can produce 3 million units per year, will make 3 that produce 1 million, whatever, I don't care. Making the point here that Tesla's already announced factories or has already constructed factories and is currently ramping factories that could theoretically get Tesla to around 10 million units of capacity per year.
But Stephen, there's never been an automotive factory that produces more than 1 million units per year.
If that's you, the door's that way, you're too dumb to be here. Reasoning by analogy? No. Now let's add a few additional factories in. This will be a total of just under a dozen Tesla factories. As you can see, with similar ramp speeds, a few more factories thrown in as well, Tesla could easily find themselves at the end of this decade with production capacity well in excess of 20 million units per year. Now you might argue the ramp speed's a little bit aggressive. That's fine, I'm just making a point. People don't seem to understand this. With the factories we currently know about, either already constructed or announced, Tesla's going to get close to 10 million units of capacity per year. Maybe in the worst case it's 7 million. Maybe in the best case it's even more than that. But this is not much of a stretch. Now maybe Tesla's a little late. After all, my own valuation model doesn't have Tesla reaching 20 million units per year in the base case. The base case, for the record, taps out in 2030 just over 17 million. Bull case a little over 20. But I don't think people are appreciating how much capacity Tesla's already built or is currently building. And now, don't worry folks, there's nothing to see here. General Motors' China business is hurting, and it's not just because of the scamdemic. The world's largest automotive market, China, is becoming increasingly challenging for US brands, especially General Motors. Well, hang on a minute. Isn't Tesla a US brand and aren't they dominating China? It's probably nothing. Let's ignore that. The company's market share in the country, including its joint ventures, has plummeted from roughly 15% in 2015 to 9.8% last year. Earnings, by the way, if you guys don't know, GM is actually in partnership, I think, with SAIC to make those tiny little Wuling Mini Death Machine on wheels, those things. Often the best-selling electric vehicle in China in a single month, costs a few $1,000s, has 0 safety features. And if anyone even farts in your general direction, you're probably going to end up with permanent injuries, if not death. That's how unsafe these things are. Don't get me wrong. People are welcome to drive around in unsafe little death machines on wheels, but they are death machines on wheels. If one of these things crashes into a plastic bag, it will lose. So it's important to understand this, because when we're talking about market share and electric vehicles, it's really important. This is not apples to apples comparison. These are literal tiny death machines on wheels. They cost a few $1,000s to produce. This is accounting for most of General Motors' electric vehicle sales in China, which are still plummeting. Earnings from GM's Chinese operations and joint ventures have fallen about 67% since their peak of more than $2 billion in 2014 and 15. Nothing to see here. Profits have collapsed by 67%. That's 2/3. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine. Government Motors is losing ground in China, its top sales market for more than a decade, and one of 2 main profit engines for the Detroit automaker. The company's market share in the country, including its joint ventures, has plummeted from roughly 15% in 2015 to 9.8% last year, the first time it has dropped below 10% since 2004. Its earnings from operations have also fallen nearly 70% since peaking in 2014. The scamdemic, which originated in China at the Wuhan Institute of... Oh, I can't say that, can I? Because I'll get kicked off YouTube still. By the way, YouTube, go f*** yourselves. I will never forgive or forget, you pieces of shit. How dare you censor people? How dare you stifle the conversation, you motherfuckers? Seriously, fuck you. However, the decline started years before the global health crisis and are growing increasingly more complex amid rising economic and political tensions between the US and China. Meanwhile, Tesla continues to absolutely slay it in China. There's also growing competition from government-backed domestic automakers fueled by nationalism and a generational shift in consumer perceptions regarding the automotive industry and electric vehicles. So check it out. From 2012, solid market share, $1.5 billion profit. 2013, increasing profits, steady market share. 2014, increasing profits, steady market share. 2015, steady profits, steady market share. 2016, declining profits, declining market share. 2017, flat profit, flat market share. 2018, flat profit, flat market share. Then what the f*** happened in 2019, 2020, 21, and 2022? Catastrophe. I mean, really, this is bad. Did it, Mary? Take, for example, Will Sundin, a 35-year-old science teacher who told CNBS he never envisioned buying a Chinese-branded vehicle when he moved to the country in 2011. More recently, Sundin purchased a NIO ET7 electric vehicle as his daily driver. Quote, "I wanted something big and comfortable, but I also wanted something that was a bit quick," he said. "I liked the look of it." Sundin, who conveniently moonlights as a YouTube car reviewer and definitely didn't pitch this idea to CNBS, spoiler alert, that's how you grow your business. You'll notice, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, almost every supposed expert that you'll see featured, with quotes featured in an article, is either A, a narcissist and just likes being in the spotlight. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into. Literally, go for it. Or has a commercial interest, like a business. I mean, I've been there, done that. I had a finance business years ago. I was a mortgage broker. I did podcasts. I won awards. I told people that I'd been on the podcast. I told people I'd won awards. I shared comments in lots of bits and pieces here as well. I wrote articles in magazines. And every time they conveniently mentioned that I was a mortgage broker, and clients came to me. It's how the world works. Sorry to rain on your parade. He purchased his NIO over models from rival Chinese automakers XPeng and Li Auto and IM Motors. He said the vehicle's ability to swap out the battery for a fresh run rather than recharging put it ahead pretty quickly. Not on his consideration list, American brands such as GM's Cadillac and Buick. Is there another American brand that's actually got EVs available in China? It's just that, I can't think of one. Tesla definitely doesn't have a presence in China, so... Quote, "Cadillac has a good image in China, but it's expensive," said Sundin, who previously owned a 2012 Ford Focus. Quote, "I think the problem they face is they have competition, new competition, a lot of competition from different directions that they weren't expecting. That competition is increasingly becoming a problem for GM, which has acknowledged such issues with its Chinese business. However, the company has not offered much assurance on how to reverse the trend, other than the promise of new EVs and a new business unit called the Durant Guild, which will import pricey vehicles with high margins from the US to China. While many US brands aren't performing well in China, it feels almost like there's a conspicuous absence of the word Tesla in this article. Can anyone... I mean, maybe it's coming later, but so far it's almost like the author is avoiding mentioning Tesla. GM's operations in the country are much larger than those of its crosstown rival Ford, for example. Again, where's the mention of Tesla? It also has a much smaller footprint globally after shedding its European operations and shuttering operations elsewhere to largely focus on North America, China, and to a lesser extent, South America. Being overly reliant on only a few markets can be risky. True. But it has led to record earnings for GM as the company under CEO Mary B.S. Barra has done away with underperforming operations. Electric vehicles could be a new opportunity for GM to grow globally, but experts say it will be an uphill battle compared with recovering in China in the years to come. Quote, "With the changes that they put in place, with a refocus on North America and China, the pull out of Europe, Essentially, that does create a risky scenario now that you have some issues, multiple issues going on in the Chinese market, said some guy from some company. So, still haven't seen the word Tesla in this article, oddly. Downplaying results. GM has been downplaying the role of its operations in China in recent quarters, including CFO Paul Jacobson saying, quote, China is not decisive to GM's financial performance when he discussed earnings in October. Now, this is kind of true. After all, with the local partner, they don't get all the profits, and they're making very, very low margin vehicles in the first place. Barra said in December that China is an important part of GM's business, but the company is also paying attention to other issues, which then included the government's now defunct zero COVID policy. Remember when I said futile, fascist, inhumane? Remember I said it's not going to work? Remember I said that and people got mad? It didn't work.
Who could have seen that coming?
Quote, we still see opportunity there, obviously. We also watch the geopolitical situation. We can't operate in a vacuum, she said during an Automotive Press Association meeting. Quote, but we continue to see opportunity there and will continue to evaluate the situation, but our plans are to be in a leadership position in EVs. I love this.
Our plans are to be in leadership position.
Hey Mary, how about your strategy to execute those plans?
What strategy? Here's a computer rendering and more plans.
A bright spot for GM in China has been its Wuling Mini, exactly, the little death machine on wheels, which is the best-selling EV in the market. Since going on sale in mid-2020, the economy car has sold more than 1 million units for a few $1,000s a pop. I mean, these things literally cost about 2 or 3 times a smartphone. Think about that. Still, Jacobson earlier this year said China's handling of the scamdemic accounted for the nearly 40% drop in equity income for operations in 2022. Wait, didn't the same scamdemic happen in the same country where Tesla has a factory? Didn't that happen? Well, hang on, that's not adding up though. That's kind of confusing, isn't it? 40% drop in equity income, aka profits, after the profit share. Did Tesla see a comparable drop in profits from their China operations? No. Isn't that interesting? GM reports its earnings from China as equity income because the country mandates joint ventures for non-Chinese automakers. Other than Tesla, there we go, that's that word finally. Other than Tesla, which was granted an exemption, I wonder why. GM has 10 joint ventures, 2 wholly owned foreign enterprises and more than 58,000 employees in China. Its brands include Cadillac, Buick, Chevrolet, Wuling, and Baojun. Quote, we see a lot of scamdemic cases in China right now that slowed down the consumer. So we expect it'll be a little bit of a slow build-up, but hopefully working its way back up to levels that we're used to over time. Why is it that GM's struggling to sell electric vehicles because of apparently the scamdemic, but Tesla's still selling them all? Nothing to see here. But it's not just related to the scamdemic. Equity income from GM's Chinese operations and joint ventures has fallen 67%. Yeah, we heard that already, okay? This article's repeated that like 3 times. Somebody gets it. Check this out. Quote, this is not the scamdemic. This started well before the scamdemic. CEO of ZoZoGo, a consulting firm focused on China, electrification, and autonomous vehicles. Quote, it also coincides with escalating tensions between the US and China. There's no question, and it's impossible to measure, but it's definitely a factor. He went on to say that the decline of GM and other non-domestic automakers, why does everyone keep forgetting to mention Tesla, comes alongside China's market growth slowing. Chinese automakers are becoming increasingly more competitive and the shift to all electric vehicles, which has been massively subsidized by government agencies. They've all really taken it on the chin for the last 5 years as middle market brands. The Chinese consumers are increasingly buying Chinese brands. Again, it's just like the elephant in the room here is Tesla, producing close to 1 million vehicles a year, many of them being sold domestically in China to Chinese consumers. Quote, that's a seismic shift. The mindset has changed. Domestic startups and automakers have helped Beijing realize its goal of boosting penetration of new energy vehicles, a category that includes electric cars. More than 1/4 of passenger cars sold in China last year were new energy vehicles, according to the China Passenger Car Association, which predicts penetration will reach 36% this year. By the way, if you're bad at math, that's more than 1/3 entire market share. Local companies rushed to grab a slice of that growth in an auto market that was slumping overall. Startups such as NIO helped promote the idea of electric vehicles as part of an aspirational lifestyle and status symbol in China. And the rising quality of domestic-made electric vehicles helped support and tap growing nationalistic pride among China's consumers. Chinese brands have grown market share by 21% since 2015 to roughly half of all passenger vehicles sold in China last year. For comparison, sales of American brands in the US during that same time have been level at about 45%. Quote, obviously the market has just been in a different place. A lot of it is policy driven. The impact of Chinese nationalism. LMC Automotive reports Chinese companies accounted for half of the top 10 automakers in sales in the country last year, up from only 3 in 2015. The most notable is BYD, an electric automaker that has skyrocketed from sales of roughly 445,000 units since then to nearly 2 million last year, making it one of the top 5 automakers by sales in China. Also, an extremely unprofitable company. I think Tesla's making about 8 times as much profit per vehicle sold. It's not how many vehicles you're making, it's how much money you're making on those vehicles. Quote, I think the number one reason for GM's decline is this tilt towards Chinese nationalism, which again, inexplicably doesn't account for Tesla continuing to sell vehicles. So here we're looking at light vehicle automakers in China by market share. In 2022, VW the number one spot. In 2015, it was GM China. You guys can read through the full list if you'd like to. Aside from GM, America's other legacy automakers, Ford and Chrysler descendant Stellantis, have not fared much better. Both have experienced significant downturns in sales. However, neither has communicated any plans on giving up on the market. Ford's market share in China has been about 2% since 2019, down from 4.8% in 2015 and 16. Ford's problems in China aren't just overseas. The company said in February it will collaborate with Chinese supplier CATL on a new $3.5 billion battery plant for electric vehicles in Michigan. The deal has been criticized by some Republicans, including Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, who requested the Biden administration review Ford's deal to license technology from CATL. They just want batteries, bro. The joint venture between Stellantis and Guangzhou Automobile Group, producing Jeep vehicles in China, filed for bankruptcy in late 2022. The decision to dissolve the partnership and import its SUVs into the country. Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares said the company is pursuing an, quote, asset-light approach in the country, focused on boosting profits and not necessarily sales, which declined 7% in 2022. Quote, it is also important that you realize that our financials in China have been improving significantly, he told reporters during a call last month, saying the company is, quote, cleaning up the place. While the American-focused automakers regroup, China's local automakers continue to gain ground in their home market. Quote, people in China are proud, said NIO owner Sundan, the same way as American-made is in the US and all the patriotism behind that. In China, it's the same thing. Finally, we can make a phone or we can make a car that's as good or better than foreign automakers. So while most of the automotive industry remains asleep at the wheel, Tesla continues to expand at a staggering rate. They now have factories in operation in Europe, the United States and China, plus a Mexico factory recently announced. They're aiming to get that done and constructed in less than 1 year. Let's see how that goes. At the exact same time, we're seeing sales and, more importantly, profitability collapsing for government motors in China. And while most legacy automotive manufacturers are doing nothing but talking, Tesla's doing a whole lot of walking. And now, a question. Is there anything in common with great poop, raging bonus, and more energy? Well, apparently, there is. We are, of course, talking about Athletic Greens AG1, one of the biggest tools in my toolkit for feeling and performing my best, and something I've been taking daily now for almost 2 years. Most of you guys will know by now it's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients. Plus, it's full of prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and adaptogens to help your body handle stress. If you head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or use the link at the pinned comment, you get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2, and you can start your daily health habit now. But don't take my word for it. Here's a few recent testimonials from viewers of the channel who've taken me up on the offer and are feeling and performing and pooping their best. 3 weeks into AG1, will not go back. Sleep and feel better. Straight to the point. AG1 rocks. Poop is long and strong. I crap so well. I look down at the toilet and am proud. Thanks, Stephen. Now, I don't know what's going on with my life, but if you had asked me a few years ago if I'd be discussing poop in front of tens of thousands of people, well, I would have said you're insane, but here we are, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, this is kind of important. If you ain't dropping the kids off at least once a day, something is severely wrong. This is one of the most common things people are discussing after taking Athletic Greens AG1. Helps enormously with digestion, gut health, and regularity. Here's another testimonial. I noticed 3 things with AG1. My chronic heartburn is gone, my digestion is more regular, and I have more alertness. And I wake up with a raging hard-on every morning. Therefore, AG1 got my thumbs up. Apparently got your dick up as well. By the way, another little health tip, if you're a man, and I don't mean someone who's mentally ill who thinks they're a man and isn't, but an actual man, and you're not waking up with a raging boner every single morning, something is really fucking wrong. Kind of obvious, but just needed to point that out. Another testimonial. AG1 has been an absolute game changer in my life. Following up after first impressions here, now almost 3 months in and almost through my 3rd pack, and I continue to have more energy, especially in the mornings, to hit it harder and harder at workouts. Continue to have mental sharpness, feel more driven to succeed in both my business growth as well as personal life goals. This has also snowballed into a kind of new sense of peace, lower anxiety, and refocus on priorities of life and family, friends, and better work-life balance, as I never feel overwhelmed with anything. Now, I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. My suspicion here is that this viewer may be experiencing some of the benefits of the adaptogens in particular, and obviously the big boost in energy. Adaptogens, for those who don't know, help the body handle stress. Another. I went through a period of being super strict with my diet, sleep, and exercise. I started AG1 in this period and felt better than ever. The crazy thing is for me that despite being less disciplined and less consistent at times, the brain fog has not returned. Definitely worth a try, people. And I mean, it is. There's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so it still puzzles me why some people are unwilling to even try this stuff. I mean, testimonial after testimonial and a 90-day money-back guarantee. If it doesn't work, get your money back, and if it does, you'll feel and perform better. What's the risk? So, put yourself out of the misery. According to these testimonials, AG1 can certainly have a positive impact on many aspects of your life. By the way, I hope those morning kickstands are being put to good use. So head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or use the link at the pinned comment. Start your daily health habit now and let me know in a few weeks how you're feeling, performing, and awakening. And don't forget, this is the last chance to submit your questions for the next exclusive Patreon Q&A. If you remember, you know where to find them, and if not, you can join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. Love ya.